Welcome to our deep dive into Ark Nova.
Oh, yeah.
So get ready to trade in your comfy armchair for the director's chair of a modern, scientifically managed zoo.
Cool.
We've got the Ark Nova rulebook in hand.
All right.
And today we're going beyond just the basics.
Okay.
We want to unearth those juicy strategic gems that make this game a true hit with board game fans.
Yeah, what's fascinating about Ark Nova is that it's not just about building the biggest or the flashiest zoo.
Right.
It's about striking that delicate balance between creating a popular attraction and seriously contributing to conservation efforts.
Okay.
It's a challenge that reflects the real-world dilemmas zoos are facing today.
I'm intrigued already.
Yeah.
So let's say I've got my blueprint ready.
Okay.
And I'm eager to start building.
Yeah.
What kind of enclosures should I be thinking about?
Well, you've got your standard enclosures, of course, coming in different sizes to house all sorts of amazing animals.
Yeah.
But then you've got these specialized enclosures, like the reptile house. Now, imagine you're working towards a conservation project focused on reptiles.
Okay.
Building the reptile house becomes a key move, right?
Makes sense.
But hold on. Placement is crucial.
Okay.
Do you put it next to a bonus space for extra resources?
Hmm.
Or maybe near a rock space to accommodate a rock-dwelling reptile you've got your eye on?
Oh, interesting.
It's all about thinking ahead and creating those synergies.
Wow, it's already getting complex.
Yeah.
I see how planning is crucial in this game.
For sure.
What are some common mistakes players make? You know, those pitfalls we want to avoid.
One trap I've seen players fall into is getting so caught up in building enclosures and snapping up every high appeal animal that comes their way
Right.
that they neglect conservation projects early on.
Okay.
Remember, those conservation points are just as important for winning the game.
Yeah.
You don't want your appeal counter soaring ahead while your conservation counter lags behind.
Right. You need that balance. It's like in real life.
Yeah.
A successful zoo needs to be both popular and responsible.
Exactly.
Now, speaking of animals, let's dive into the animals action.
All right.
Say I've got my perfect reptile house ready.
Okay.
How do I choose which slithery friend to invite in?
That's where the real strategic fun begins.
Okay.
You might be tempted by that high appeal king cobra, right?
Mm.
But does it fit your conservation goals?
Okay.
Does it have icons that synergize with your sponsor cards?
Right.
Maybe giving you a bonus for having a certain number of venom icons.
Oh, interesting.
It's not just about picking the coolest looking reptile. It's about considering the bigger picture.
So each decision has a ripple effect.
Yeah.
I'm starting to see how these mechanics weave together.
Right.
Speaking of connections,
Yeah.
those icons on the cards seem super important.
For sure.
Can you break those down for me?
Absolutely. Think of icons as the language of the cards.
No.
They determine animal costs,
Right.
influence conservation projects, and even trigger special abilities.
Wow.
So let's say you want to build the meerkat den from a sponsor card.
Okay.
You'll need to pay its cost and place it next to a rock space. Because the meerkat den card has the rock icon.
Right.
Suddenly your zoo layout becomes a strategic puzzle.
It's like every decision is a mini game in itself.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm already feeling the pressure.
Uh-oh.
How does a player actually get these cards in their hand?
Okay.
Talk to me about the card's action.
The card's action is your engine constantly fueling your hand with new possibilities.
Okay.
You can draw cards from the deck, hoping for a lucky find,
Okay.
or use the exciting snapping mechanic.
Snapping, that sounds intense. Tell me more.
It is, imagine a card on the display,
Okay.
those face-up cards everyone can see,
Yeah.
is just what you need.
Oh.
Snapping lets you grab it,
Yeah.
but it'll cost you reputation, another vital resource.
Oh.
This is where things get risky.
Okay.
Spending reputation on a snap early in the game might leave you short later on when you really need it.
So it's all about choosing your battles wisely.
Exactly.
Now, we've talked about enclosures and animals,
Yeah.
which seems pretty straightforward. But then you throw in things like snapping and reputation.
Right.
What other elements are there that add these layers of complexity?
Well, there's the association action,
Okay.
which is where you send your workers to do association work.
Okay. I'm hooked association work. Like what?
Think of it as building your zoo's influence beyond its gates.
Okay.
Your workers can boost your reputation, which is crucial for that snapping mechanic we talked about.
Great.
They can also forge partnerships with zoos from around the world,
Wow.
which can lower the cost of acquiring animals from those regions.
Interesting.
And importantly, your workers can help you support those vital conservation projects.
So there's this global element woven into the game.
Yeah.
You're not just managing a zoo. You're part of this worldwide network of conservation efforts.
For sure.
But running a zoo takes money.
right?
Where does the sponsors action come in?
Sponsors are your lifeline.
Okay.
Playing sponsor cards can grant instant bonuses like a sudden influx of cash or provide ongoing benefits like increasing your income each break.
Okay.
That administrative phase we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Some sponsors even give you those precious endgame points.
Right.
It's about playing the long game, setting yourself up for success in the final scoring.
This is already so much to think about.
It is a lot.
And we haven't even touched upon those intriguing break mechanics.
Right.
Or the upgraded action cards.
Yeah.
I think we need to take a deeper dive into those fascinating details.
I completely agree. There's so much more to uncover about Ark Nova's strategic depth.
All right, we'll be right back.
Sounds good. Welcome back. I'm excited to keep unraveling these intricate layers of Ark Nova with you.
Me too. We've laid a great foundation, but now I'm really curious about those break mechanics.
Okay.
They sound like a crucial part of the gameplay loop.
They absolutely are. Remember, breaks happen at certain points throughout the game.
Right.
Providing a chance to catch your breath.
Manage resources, and most importantly, collect income based on your zoo's appeal.
Got it.
This is where those kiosks we talked about earlier really shine.
Okay.
The more unique buildings and enclosures surrounding a kiosk, the more money it generates during a break.
Interesting.
It's like a mini economic engine within your zoo.
So that's how you keep the cash flowing to fund those ambitious projects.
Exactly.
It all ties back to that balance between appeal and conservation.
Yeah.
We've talked about actions, icons, sponsors.
Right.
What other sneaky mechanics are lurking in this game?
Well, there are some really interesting mechanics tied to certain animal abilities.
Okay.
For instance, some animals might grant you constriction tokens.
Constriction tokens.
Now, these tokens can be used to, well, constrict your opponents.
Oh, I like where this is going. Tell me more.
Imagine you play an animal with a constriction ability.
Okay.
You can then place a constriction token on one of your opponent's action cards, reducing its strength for their next turn.
Oh, wow. It's a clever way to slow down your opponents and potentially gain an advantage.
It sounds like these animal abilities add a whole other layer of strategy.
Yeah.
You're not just thinking about an animal's appeal or conservation value,
Right.
but also how its unique ability might help you outmaneuver your opponents.
Exactly. And then there's venom.
Venom, okay.
Now, don't worry. It's not as dangerous as it sounds in the context of the game.
That's a relief. So what does venom do in Ark Nova?
Certain animals will grant you venom tokens.
Okay.
These tokens become active if your zoo's appeal reaches a certain level, usually 5 or more.
Okay.
Once active, they provide you with some pretty sweet benefits.
Interesting. So it's a risk-reward situation.
Yeah.
You want high appeal to activate those venom benefits.
Right.
But having a high appeal could also make you vulnerable to your opponent's attacks.
Precisely. It's a constant balancing act.
Right.
And speaking of boosting your actions, let's not forget about the multiplayer tokens.
Multiplayer tokens.
These can be earned in a variety of ways, like through specific animal abilities or bonus spaces.
I'm guessing they multiply something, but what exactly?
You got it. Multiplier tokens are placed on your action cards.
Okay.
When you activate that action, the multiplier token doubles its strength, letting you pull off some really powerful moves.
Wow, that's a game changer. It seems like there are so many ways to customize your strategy in Ark Nova.
Yeah.
It's not just a linear path to victory. There are all these branching paths and unexpected twists and turns.
Absolutely. And don't forget about upgrading your action cards.
Right.
This is a crucial element of the game. Upgrading an action card not only allows you to perform stronger actions, but often unlocks completely new possibilities.
Okay.
For example, upgrading your animal's action might let you play animals directly from the display,
Wow.
bypassing the usual reputation restrictions.
Okay, my brain is officially in overdrive.
Uh-oh.
But amidst all this talk of strategic maneuvering and maximizing actions, I want to circle back to the heart of the game conservation.
Okay.
We briefly touched on the release Into the Wild conservation project.
Yes.
Can we explore that a bit further?
Of course, this project is a great example of how Ark Nova reflects real-world conservation efforts.
Okay.
It allows you to return animals to their natural habitats, just like zoos sometimes do in real life.
Right.
But here's where the strategic dilemma comes in.
Okay.
When you release an animal, you lose its appeal points.
So it's a trade-off. You're contributing to conservation.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Right.
But you're potentially sacrificing your zoo's popularity in the process.
Exactly. It's a tough choice.
Yeah.
And it really makes you think about the long-term consequences of your actions. Do you prioritize your zoo's appeal and aim for a short-term victory? Or do you make sacrifices to contribute to the greater good of conservation?
It's a question that real-life zoo directors grapple with all the time.
For sure.
I love that the game forces you to confront these kinds of ethical and strategic dilemmas.
Yeah.
It adds so much depth to the gameplay.
It does. And let's not forget about the diversity of animal species represented in the game.
Okay.
You'll encounter animals from all over the world, including some that are critically endangered in real life.
That's an important point. It's not just about abstract gameplay.
Right.
It's about raising awareness of real-world conservation issues.
Right. And the game does a fantastic job of showcasing the interconnectedness of ecosystems.
Okay.
You'll find that the success of your zoo hinges on creating a harmonious balance between different animal species and their habitats.
Makes sense.
Just like in the real world, everything is connected.
I'm also really impressed by the depth of information provided in the rulebook.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just a dry set of instructions. It's like a mini encyclopedia of zoology and conservation.
I agree. The rulebook is incredibly well written and goes above and beyond simply explaining the rules. It provides context examples and even offers strategic insights.
It's like having a personal zoo consultant guiding you through the game.
Exactly.
Okay, we've covered so much ground.
We have.
But I can't help but feel like we're just scratching the surface of Ark Nova's complexities.
Yeah.
I'm starting to understand why this game has such a devoted following.
It truly is a captivating game. But before we lose ourselves completely in its intricacies, let's take a moment to appreciate the big picture, that final scoring moment that determines the ultimate winner.
Woo, yes. Let's talk about those endgame nail-biters. All right, it's the moment of truth, the final scoring. After all this strategic planning, careful animal selection, and breakneck conservation efforts, how does it all actually come together to determine the winner in Ark Nova?
The final scoring is where those subtle moves you made throughout the game can really pay off. It's not just about the raw number of appeal or conservation points you've accumulated.
Right.
It's about those final scoring cards you've been holding on to and the clever placement of those endgame icons.
Okay, remind me about those final scoring cards. They've been lurking in the back of my mind this whole time.
Right. Each player starts with 2 final scoring cards kept secret from their opponents.
Hey.
These cards offer different ways to snag extra conservation points at the end of the game. You might get points for the number of sponsor cards you've played.
Okay.
Or for having a certain combination of animal categories in your zoo.
So it's almost like a hidden objective that shapes your decisions throughout the game.
Yeah.
You might be focusing on a certain strategy, not just because it seems strong,
Right.
but because it aligns with your secret scoring goals.
Exactly. Those final scoring cards add a layer of intrigue and make the final scoring even more exciting. You never know what hidden objectives your opponents have been pursuing. But then there's another twist. Those endgame icons we talked about earlier.
Right, those little paw print symbols on some of the animal and sponsor cards. What role do they play in the final moments?
Well, throughout the game, those endgame icons are just sitting there, almost like sleeping giants. But when it comes to the final scoring, they awaken. They can grant you a burst of appeal or conservation points, potentially tipping the scales in your favor.
Wow. So a card you played early in the game could suddenly become a game changer at the very end.
Absolutely. It's all about those long-term strategies and subtle synergies. It's why Ark Nova feels so rewarding. Every decision you make from enclosure placement to which animals you acquire can have a ripple effect that influences the final outcome.
It's like conducting a symphony building towards that grand finale, and you, the conductor, have to carefully orchestrate each element to achieve a harmonious masterpiece.
What a fantastic analogy. That's precisely what playing Ark Nova feels like. You're not just building a zoo, you're crafting an experience.
Yeah.
And it's an experience that mirrors the complexities of real-world conservation efforts.
Thinking back to that balance of appeal and conservation that we've been discussing, what final thoughts would you leave our listener with about how that plays out in both the game and in the real world?
It's a challenge that's woven into the fabric of Ark Nova. Just like real-life zoos, players have to grapple with that delicate balance. Do you focus on attracting visitors and maximizing profits, or do you prioritize the well-being of your animals and contribute to broader conservation goals?
It's a question that resonates far beyond the game board. And in a way, Ark Nova gives us a chance to explore those tough choices and perhaps gain a deeper understanding of the challenges facing modern zoos.
I completely agree. It's a game that invites us to think critically and consider the impact of our decisions. And perhaps after playing Ark Nova, we might even view our local zoos with a fresh perspective, appreciating the intricate efforts behind creating a thriving and ethical environment for animals.
Well said. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the captivating world of Ark Nova. I hope this episode has sparked your curiosity and maybe even inspired you to try the game for yourself.
It's a game that offers endless possibilities for strategic thinking and a renewed appreciation for the vital role that zoos play in conservation.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.